It is not the end of the season yet, but it is the end of an era. The Packers part ways with Mike McCarthy with 4 games remaining. Tonight on Cover 2, reaction to the firing, and Dean Lowry joins us in studio. A highly successful NFL head coach is out of a job, and the Packers are all but out of the playoffs after a stunningly bad performance today. A busy Cover 2 starts now. How you doing, everybody? Welcome to Cover 2, and thanks for staying up late with us tonight around the state. When the Packers play their next game a week from today at home against the Falcons, Joe Philbin will be calling the shots. After 12 3/4 seasons as head coach in Green Bay, Mike McCarthy's tenure came to a close following today's underwhelming loss to the 2-9 Cardinals at home. Dave Schrader leads off our Cover 2 coverage of the seismic shakeup.
Well, running the table and getting help to make the playoffs was always a long shot this season, but after a loss at home in the snow against the worst offense in football, Packers president Mark Murphy had seen enough. The third longest tenured coach in the NFL was removed from his post.
At the end of the day, that would be my decision.
Those Murphy's words from January when he hired GM Brian Gutekunst. Tonight, Murphy said in a statement, the 2018 season has not lived up to the expectations and standards of the Green Bay Packers. As a result, I made the difficult decision to relieve Mike McCarthy of his role as head coach, effective immediately. The standards were always clear.
Just to let you know, there will be an unconditional commitment from Ted and myself to bring the World Championship back to Green Bay. And I think that's very important to state that right up front.
The coach lived up to the commitment he made in his introductory press conference, winning Super Bowl 45, but the Packers have not been back to the big game since. Offensive coordinator Joe Philbin will now take over in an interim role.
You know, it's just unfortunate that it had to happen, especially knowing that our season isn't over. We have 4 more games left, and I mean, that's the nature of this business, you know, especially when you have a losing season like this and with such high expectations with the organization like this. It's high standards. When we fall short of that, it's consequences.
Even before the firing, many Packers were resigned to their playoff-less fates and the fact that change was coming.
We're all professionals. I think we're going to go in each and every week wanting to win the game, focusing week in, week out, making the corrections and finishing these last 4 games strong.
We got to get better. I mean, you know, for this year, we got to finish out this season strong. Then we got to, you know, start focusing on next year and what we're going to do to not be in this situation again.
When we started the season, we didn't think we would be in this, you know, in this hole, but we are. And all we can do is continue to play now.
Second-year safety Josh Jones was shocked by the immediate move.
I never thought that it was possible. I never thought that, you know, scenario never crossed my mind of him being fired. All of those guys in that locker room, since they've been here, have only known one coach.
Losing is definitely not the Green Bay Packer way. It's definitely a winning culture here. It's been tough on everybody.
At the outset of the season, McCarthy employed 2 former head coaches as his coordinators. The experience of Philbin, now the interim head coach, and Mike Pettin, the defensive coordinator, will be leaned on now over the final 4 games of the season in Green Bay. Chris?
Time now for On the Clock, sponsored by Top Dog Apparel, your custom apparel in 2 weeks. All right, thank you, Dave, and please say hello to Jason Wilde, ESPN Wisconsin, Rob Demoski, ESPN.com, and Mark Daniels, WTAQ.com, bringing them in early. It's a big night, big news, big opinions. Jason, we'll start with yours.
Well, we were in the press box before the notice came out, and I had said, what was that, like a half hour before that, I said, is there any way, they're still in playoff contention, is there any way they say, you know what, we're going to make the move now, maybe it shakes things up. They go on a 4-game run, not it's realistic at all. And I really thought, Rob, that it was an unrealistic thought. Yeah. But as Dave mentioned there, they did have 2 former head coaches on their staff. They're capable of doing it, and they did it.
My question is, at this point, what's the benefit of doing it now? I think we all saw the handwriting on the wall. We all saw that this was coming, just based on the way they performed, based on the sort of negative vibe that had been around the building. Look, Mike McCarthy was a different person with us publicly after Aaron Rodgers made those comments in week 4. I mean, he was downtrodden. Quite frankly, he seemed like he was emasculated. And we all knew it was coming. Mark, the question, I guess, is what's the benefit of doing it now?
I never expected the decisiveness from Mark Murphy that he displayed tonight. Then again, it would have been a tortuous final month for McCarthy, because we would be going over this and over this
for the players,
for
they'd be
4
asked
weeks.
the same questions
and
over
it would have
again.
just, the whole thing, it's already derailed, but it really would have jumped the tracks even more. I do feel badly for Mike, a Super Bowl winning 9-time playoff coach. With a month to go, I would have given him the month.
Well, let's talk timing real quick here, Jason, because I think you can make the argument that Mark Murphy may have waited too long for Ted Thompson. Did he go too soon on Mike McCarthy?
I don't think so. And in fact, I think you probably make the argument that this was a move that could have been made earlier than this year, frankly, given the relationship between the coach and the quarterback, et cetera. To me, the question is now, when you do this at this point in the year, Rob, is it because, I don't want to say it's a knee-jerk reaction, but we always talk about how this team doesn't have an owner.
Right.
This felt like something a wealthy owner does when he's really mad about losing a game to a really bad team.
And I guess to my point about why do it now, what's the benefit? This is a guy who, you know, was he doing the job this year? Probably not. No, he said I needed to coach better, but this is a guy who's going to be part of your future legacy. I mean, he's going to be in the team's Hall of Fame.
Sure. Right.
He's got a street named after him, which I realize has nothing to do with,
#2 all
nothing
time
to do
in
with
wins.
the team. You know, why not just let him go out with a little bit more dignity
Are
he went out with
and
today?
are they really going to get a head start on a coaching search and join the Browns
Only if
in
they're
the
getting
early?
a college guy.
I suppose, and they're probably going to talk to him, but I'm really curious to see now how the silos are going to get together and find a replacement. Good luck.
Will the silos be restructured
No.
now that you don't have to worry about inheriting a head coach as Brian Gutekunst
Well, maybe.
did with Mike McCarthy? We'll see. Stick around, guys. You're not done. Trust me, this was just the appetizer, even though it felt like the main course. But there'll be more. We'll have another segment of these guys coming up later on in the show. But up next, Packers defensive lineman Dean Lowry joins us in studio. We'll get his reaction and more when we come back. Welcome back to Cover 2, everybody. Pleased to be joined by Packers defensive lineman Dean Lowry, and not pleased to talk about this subject, Dean, but your reaction to now having a new head coach with Mike McCarthy being relieved of his duties.
It's tough seeing that. You know, I just found out as you did and most people did, but you know, I would just say he was a great coach. You know, he helped bring me to Green Bay. He drafted me. You know, part of that process, but we just got to keep fighting. And Coach McCarthy, you know, I think we all played hard for him. The past few weeks, it didn't turn out the way we wanted to, but you know, he's a great coach and a great person too. So it's sad to see him go.
Was there a sense in the locker room, now that it's happened, you can talk about it, that this was probably coming if you guys couldn't turn around? I think the timing may be a little surprising. Maybe most people thought it was going to come at the end of the season if you didn't make the playoffs. But you guys had to be aware of this possibility, right? You talk amongst yourselves a little bit?
Yeah, we were. We knew that changes were coming. You know, anytime you miss the playoffs or miss your goal in the season, you know that certain changes will happen. We weren't exactly positive that would happen, but you know, and we are a little bit surprised that it happened now. But it's a business, and it comes down to winning. And we know as a team, you know, we weren't good enough, so it's part of that process.
Let me ask you about what the message is, the byproduct of this. If a guy who's been here for 12 plus years and has the resume that Mike McCarthy does can before the end of the season, does that put players on any kind of alert? Hey, listen, this organization isn't going to accept anything less than success. Does that put players on alert?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, anytime that happens, it shows the team that, you know, we got to win here, and this is a place that we expect to win championships. It's title town for a reason. So even though, you know, our chances of making the playoffs right now are slim, we're going to keep fighting. We got guys who, you know, are being evaluated every single day. We have guys going out there doing their job. So we have a commitment to the guys in the locker room, to the team, to Green Bay, to go out there and play our all.
All right, and that goes for the next couple of games. But let's go back to today's game and talk a little bit about some of the stuff that happened. So we'll put them on the telestrator. This was a really well-designed play in the first quarter for a sack. Now, here you are on the line, but we're also going to highlight Josh Jones. And the one thing, Dean, that I've noticed this year a lot with you guys, sometimes you have this huge gap between you and, in this case, it's Kenny, the other defensive lineman. And we know that in the past, Dom Capers like this double A-gap blitz where guys would come through the same gap. Does this stance get them thinking that maybe if a blitz is coming, it's coming this way?
Right, exactly. We also do a lot of inside blitzes too, so but the goal right here with me and Clay is to crash down and bring these guys along with us.
Okay, that's Clay there, and here are you.
Right, so we can take up the guard and the tackle and then put Josh one-on-one with the running back.
So does he have the choice here then which way he's going to come?
This was more off he's supposed to come this way because as you can see, it's gonna tighten down late. And the nice thing is we actually worked on this all week in practice was his angle on that thing right there. So he a lot of times he would come wide, but this week he really improved on it and had a nice tight angle to the quarterback, which allowed him to get his sack there.
All right, and one of the things we've talked about in the past with Mike Pettine's system coming in is getting free runners, and that's a well-designed scheme to get a free runner at the quarterback. Okay, later on in the game, this is your second pass batted down of the year. So again, talk to me about timing. There you are. And when the quarterback starts to go, when do you know to back off? And we're going to watch you like do your little shuffle your feet and everything, get ready for the big leap. But timing's so important in this. How do you time it out?
It's all about timing, honestly. That's just from film study, kind of knowing how they're going to attack you. And right here, you can see Kyler dropping into coverage, and right here I have contained as well. So I see the guard is on me initially, and then the tackle comes down to me, and I see it just from Josh Rosen right there. He's about to throw it. So I get my eyes on him, and then we always say if you can't get to the quarterback, get your hands up. So trying to get in the passing lane, so that's what happened there.
And after shaking your hands tonight, I know that's an awful big paw, so you can get football pretty easily. All right, let's go to your sack play. And again, this is something that Mike has brought to this defense this year. Very late shifting on the line. What does this do for you guys when that happens right there before the snap? You see Montrevious and Kenny both moving pre-snap right before the snap.
Yeah, the goal with that was to try and get them off balance a little bit. You want to make them think of, where they're going, if they're going to come this gap or that gap. So if we stand, we call it the very last minute, it makes them think and makes them kind of over-communicate. So it's good for us. And the sack right here, you see Kyler dropping. I was in a 3-technique rush right here. I gave him a little swim move right there, and I got to the quarterback pretty good. So I actually missed a sack earlier in the game, so it's nice to get that right there. And then you see me and Kenny with the celebration.
All right. And there it is. Good swim move by Dean Lowry. And thanks for coming in on a tough night. We appreciate that. And good luck the rest of the way under your interim head coach, Joe Philbin, starting next week at home against the Falcons. Dean Lowry, thank you. More Cover 2 coming up on this kind of crazy night for the Green Bay Packers. Welcome back, everybody. The Packers will return to work tomorrow, but instead of Mike McCarthy addressing the team, it's going to be interim head coach Joe Philbin. Lindsay Polaris continues our coverage tonight. Lindsay?
Thanks, Chris. Mike McCarthy couldn't sustain success here in Titletown forever. Even he was aware that after today's stunning loss to the Cardinals, he was in a precarious position with 4 games left to go and his team out of playoff contention for a second straight season.
I've never been in this spot, and I'm not going to act like I know what the hell I'm going to do tomorrow when they get in here. So we're gonna do what we always do. We're going to represent the Packers the right way. I know that. So other than that, we'll focus on what's in front of us.
But they've been doing that, focusing on season-long problems on offense, third down, red zone efficiency, scoring points.
We haven't played very well. We've put up some yards at times and taken care of the football pretty well. But usually, over the years, the success that we've had, we've taken really good care of the football, but we've paired that with efficiency in the passing game and big plays and explosive gains. And this year we've had the taking care of the football, but we haven't had the consistent explosive gains. So, we all take part in the disappointments and the failures that we've had this season.
Which is bad indictment for an offensive head coach. Remember, McCarthy's 2011 squad set a franchise record for 15 wins while hitting single-season team marks in points, touchdowns, total net yards, and passing touchdowns. 9 of his first 12 years, they finished top 10 in total offense, and 8 straight years they were top 10 in scoring. This 2018 team fell far short of those accolades. In the newsroom, Lindsay Polaris for Cover 2.
All right, Lindsay, thanks very much. Still much more to come here on Cover 2. We're going back to the boys, Jason, Rob, and Mark, on the clock, part 2, when we return. And welcome back, everybody. Part 2 of On the Clock. Jason Wilde, Rob Dabosky, Mark Daniels. We already talked about your reaction to Mike McCarthy and the news today, but let's dive a little deeper, Jason. You talked in that earlier segment about the fractured relationship between the head coach and the quarterback. There's obviously lots of things that have gone wrong this year, but who has to bear some of this blame?
Everyone does. I mean, Mike McCarthy obviously does. Aaron Rodgers hasn't played well. They never quite figured out in the last several years how to kind of get on the same page and get along as well as they probably needed to find success. There's all kinds of blame to go around, just like there's all kinds of blame to go-around for this season going off the rails.
As Mike McCarthy liked to say in this last
It's like
year,
anything.
it's like anything, Chris. There's a lot of factors that go into it. I still say it goes back to the roster as a starting point. I mean, we've talked on the show about Ted Thompson's last 3 drafts. That should be the meat of the roster, the guys that are next in line for contract extensions, Mark, and there's really nobody out of that group other than Kenny Clark that's just an absolute standout starter. And that's just one starting point, but then it goes back to all the things that Jason had mentioned. I think it's just that building effect.
I agree. McCarthy says at the start of every season it's going to take all 53 or all 63, and all 63, McCarthy, coaching staff, they just could not get this team to perform at a satisfactory level, and that's where we're at today.
Jason, real quick before we move on, because you talked about the last couple of years between the quarterback and the coach, in your mind, where did that thing start to fracture and start heading downhill?
Look, we all have people we don't like to work with.
We're going to have to readjust the seating chart, apparently.
No, I'm kidding. But it's true, right? You have creative differences, whatever you want to call them. To me, it's all about, can you figure out a way to coexist and work together and succeed? And Rob and I have, and not all combinations.
And for that, you are all very grateful. All right. That relationship is going to be very important with the next head coach, right? Because Aaron Rodgers has been here a long time. He's had a lot of autonomy. He's had a lot of success. He knows a lot. He's a very smart guy. He's a very talented guy. So whoever it is has to be able to work with it. Rob, throw out some possible replacements. What do you think is going to happen?
I list a few in my piece that posted this evening on ESPN.com that really is focused more on how Rodgers needs to work with the next coach. Look, the first question that needs to be asked is not who the head coach is, it's who's going to hire the head coach. Sure. And I asked Mark Murphy in that press conference, are you open to someday going back, maybe when Brian gets a year under his belt, to going back to the old way where the GM hires a coach? And he didn't rule it out.
Ask him again tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. That's the first question that needs to be asked. But look, if Brian Gutekunst is the hire, and I wrote this, I was told he absolutely loves Jim Harbaugh. Has always been a fan of him. And I'm not saying Harbaugh is going to be the guy, but as one scout told me tonight, it's a guy like that, a no-nonsense guy like Harbaugh. But look.
And has chops that Aaron Rodgers would have to respect.
But it's got to be an offensive coach. When you have this quarterback, and you'd like to do what they did with the Vic Fangio in Chicago, right? You pay him a bunch of money to stay as defensive coordinator. But look, the hot offensive coordinators, Josh McDaniels, the Filippo guy in Minneapolis, whatever. Yeah, Filippo.
I'm not sure he's that hot right now. That offense.
Remember what the Colts did late with Jim Caldwell, with an older Peyton Manning? He didn't even bother getting a coordinator, pretty much. He just let Peyton run the offense. Could that type of situation come into play here, where Rodgers runs the offense? Because quite honestly, it looks to me like Rodgers is running this offense right now.
Look, he's running
it's not working.
And it's not working.
But he's running an offense he didn't care for.
He's got to make some better throws.
Look, whoever comes in has to earn Aaron Rodgers' respect, just as Rodgers has to respect that person, right? Yeah. I think he has to feel a level of collaboration with Aaron Rodgers where it's a two-way street. But he also, I really think he has to make sure that they hire someone who's as smart as Aaron Rodgers, which I know you mentioned how smart he is, but I think that's a component. You have to respect the intellect and the ideas and the fresh offensive scheme that he may bring.
How many guys out there are smart as
It's
Aaron
a short list.
Yeah, it is.
It's going to make it challenging.
All right, Rob, you touched on this, so let me go to Mark. Mike Pettin has done a lot this year with a little because of the injuries. Can you see a scenario, which Rob was alluding to, Vic Fangio, is that something they should do?
I think Pettin has impressed enough people in that building to convince them that he's got to be a part of this deal. I really think so.
Mike McCarthy tried to do that with Jim Bates when he took over in Green Bay, right? I mean, if
Jim Bates wanted to be the head coach,
right.
He didn't want to stay.
So I don't know what Mike Pettin wants. Mike Pettin told us when he got the job he didn't want to be a head coach anymore. When I asked him last week, he didn't really want to answer. So we'll see.
Maybe he knew it was coming. Rob, would you like to go deeper into that dive?
No, I think they need to keep him. I mean, he's obviously not going to be the head coach, but you don't want to start over again defensively.
Okay. Let's go to ad libs. Joe Philbin's Packers will win blank games, Jason. 2 out of 4.
3.
Ooh,
really?
Making a push for his own head coaching candidacy.
I think 2's a stretch. It's going to be a tough boat to row.
All right, since we kind of touched on the next coach will be somebody, we're going to skip over that. We'll go right to, we asked this 2 weeks ago. We'll see if the answer has changed. Mike McCarthy will be coaching blank next fall. Jason?
Oh, we have to say coaching? I thought it was Mike McCarthy will be blank.
Well, it's a slight twist on an old standby.
Rob's kids basketball team.
I think he will be sitting out the year.
Even if Cleveland comes calling.
He'll be coaching in the NFL somewhere, I think, next year. But where, I'm not sure.
I think he's going to coach again in the NFL someday. I just think
after
he's going to take a year off.
I agree with
Take the paid year off. Yeah. All right, gentlemen, thanks very much for the double dip tonight. We'll come back and wrap up cover 2 right after this. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.